Hi folks, today I'm taking a look at the nominees for Best Director. The first nominee, who I believe deserves to win this by a country mile, is Darren Aronofsky for putting us right inside the crumbling mind of Nina Sayers in Black Swan. When it comes to psychological thrillers, a lot of filmmakers will be very delicate about walking that fine line between reality and fantasy, but not Darren Aronofsky. He relishes in bouncing back and forth between the two, to the point when we can no longer trust what we see on screen. This is what keeps the audience on edge for so much of the film. You might call his direction conspicuous, but I would say it's actually quite controlled and even subtle. He just does such a good job at flooring us with terrifying images and maddening sounds that it's hard to notice the nuance at first. Unfortunately, I think he's the least likely to win. Stunning though it may be, Black Swan is just not the Academy's type of movie. Our next nominee is the two-headed monster of Joel and Ethan Coen for helming the enjoyable old-school western True Grit. Now, if I hadn't already known better before seeing the movie, I might not have guessed that it was made by the Coen brothers. One usually expects the Coens to infuse their trademark brand of quirk or dark humor into their movies, but there's not a whole lot of that in True Grit. As a result, the film doesn't have much of a distinct personality, but in all honesty, that was probably the best decision they could have made. This is an old-fashioned story best told in a straightforward, old-fashioned way. It's not as artistically interesting as their portfolio to date, but it is one of the best times I've had in a movie theater this year. People love this movie. I don't blame them. But I don't think the Coens will win. They have won pretty recently, and as beloved as True Grit is, it doesn't seem to be quite as beloved as this next nominee. And that would be The King's Speech, directed by Tom Hooper. Given the nature of the material he was working with, Hooper's goal on this film was to do everything he could to prevent it from being stuffy and dry, as many prestige period dramas tend to come across. Was he successful? For the most part, I'd say yes. His oversight of the photography and editing helped the film to flow rather wonderfully, and he draws several focused performances out of his actors. Hooper's already won the Directors Guild of America award this year for The King's Speech, and I'm predicting that he'll win the Oscar as well. Not that I think The King's Speech represents a particularly exceptional directorial accomplishment, but because it is the clear frontrunner for Best Picture, the winner of which also wins Best Director more often than not. But Hooper's not out of the woods yet. His chief competition for the award stands just as plausible a chance of winning, and that is David Fincher for The Social Network. Fincher has built an enviable reputation upon stylish films like Seven and Fight Club that excel by his loud directorial flourish. But with The Social Network, he's made a movie that excels more by his reservation and quietness. He lets the screenplay do the talking, and extracts terrific performances from the cast. His direction does not intrude. Of course, he is still an impeccable craftsman, and his supervision of the film's technical elements is near perfect in every detail. It's just that this time, he aims to make you not notice those elements as much, so you can focus more on the characters and story. Fincher has won the Golden Globe, the BAFTA, and literally dozens of critics' prizes this season for directing The Social Network. If only his film was the Best Picture frontrunner, I'd say he'd have it in the bag. But as it stands, it looks like it'll be a close race between him and Tom Hooper for the Oscar. The final nominee is David O. Russell for directing The Fighter. I'm probably in the minority of people in thinking that this film wasn't all that great, but my qualms have more to do with the script than with Russell's direction. He does a fine job at directing his actors, out of all of whom he withdraws rich performances, and the boxing sequences in the film are a definite highlight that succeed greatly at exciting and rousing the audience under his sure coordination. The film is certainly a popular one with the Academy, and will likely win one or two acting categories, but I think passion for the film will run out there. Russell does have a bit of a reputation for being somewhat prickly, which might cost him some votes, but even if he was the most lovable character in the world, I don't think there's enough support for his film to overcome the popularity of The King's Speech. Therefore, I maintain that Tom Hooper is the winner of this category, with David Fincher as a very possible spoiler. One more category left. Tomorrow I post a nice long video discussing the nominees for Best Picture.